Good morning, beautiful people. Want to talk about property management. What's that there? Got to pull that out. Want to talk about property management this morning. Oi. And property management is like a bag of cash. That's the example I want to give you guys. So often with property management, you got to look at it like it's $1 million of cash. Who are you going to trust your $1 million of cash with? And often people think, well, how hard can it be? Jeff, good morning. Catherine, good morning. How hard can it be managing property for real estate? Like all you're really doing is collecting the rent. Now, a couple of examples I'm going to give you throughout this to learn from will show you that it's going to cost you a lot more to manage property yourself. But it literally is like a bag of cash. It's like walking around with $500,000 and you're as a custodian looking after that. So, you know, if you're going to look after that yourself, is that $500,000 going to get the focus and the experience that it needs in order to grow? More often, 5 years later or 3 years later, when you get that bag of cash returned to you, is there more in that bag of cash or less? That's what property management's like, and you've got to be very, very careful. It's highly specialized, and to give you an idea, a real estate agency may run on a profit of 10 or 20%. The rest is actually all experienced labor at protecting your asset. That's what real estate agents do. They are protecting your asset, and only 10 or 20% is really profiteered from your property management. So you're actually really saving, and also when you're scaling it, well, you get to manage a lot more property, and it basically, you know, I guess if we were managing one property, it will cost us 5 or 6 times more. Because we're managing so many, you're scaling it, it's cheaper to look after. So you're actually getting an exceptional service. Now, a couple of examples that I just wanted to give you this morning on property management with a pro and property management self-managed and where it can go wrong. One would be, believe it or not, this morning I've got notes, it's very rare. One would be reletting the property and not meeting the market. So you've got to consider that the management fees may be 7% on a $500 property, which is what's that going to be? $3,500, $2,500 to $3,500 a year, say, on a property. Now, if that's the case, that's what you're actually saving. Let me do the maths on that. $500, $35 a week. $1,500 a year. That's what you're saving, right? On a property of $500 a week. Now, the risk of that $1,500 and the full service that we offer, one would be the not reletting at market. So with the rental market, it actually fluctuates. Sometimes it's actually growing all the time, and sometimes lately, in particular the last year or two, the rents are chipping back a little bit. Not that scary when your interest rates are going down, but when an owner puts a property back on the market, they may be getting, say, $550 a week. When they put it back on the market, they just assume that they're going to get $550 a week again. Now, how many weeks does it take for the owner? How many Saturdays or how many showings does it take for the owner who's self-managing to actually realize that, you know what, I may be a little bit above the market? That mistake, be it 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, is $500 freight. So just on reletting, not being specialized with where the market is and being able to read that market, you can blow up $1,500. Now, if you do find a tenant, just bear in mind that it's actually 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks generally before they want to move in, because they have to give 3 weeks notice where they are. So be really careful on self-managing your property when it comes to reletting and getting that rental figure right, because you can blow up a lot of rent. Hey, and there's an example, you may as well just have it self-managed yourself. It's another thing is it's not your core business. So just imagine what you do as your core business and what you were like in year one as opposed to year 5. Now, to give you an example, I think you're regarded as an absolute pro. I think I read somewhere it was if you've done it for 5,000 hours, right? You've made all the mistakes. That's with one property. Imagine when you're managing lots, you actually get really good at it. So guys, your core business, what you love, do it and do it well, and farm off the work to a real estate agent to manage your property. And again, for the freight of $1,500 over the course of a year, given everything that agent's going to do, it's asset protection, it's asset growth, it's legislation interpretation, it's reading the market, it's a lot of things. You've got to be careful. Next thing I see is a mistake that people self-managing do is they get personal. So their tenant gets pregnant, or their tenant falls into some sort of, maybe some sort of area of, weakness. And then what happens is when an owner's self-managed, they get personal. So often I have owners coming to me, and what brought this on today was I'm doing a lot of cleanups for people that I don't manage property for. So they are ex-clients that are coming back for advice. They are family, they are friends, they are customers that I've worked with on a sales capacity, and they've made a big mistake with property management, or they're just about to make a big mistake to property management, and they come and see me for advice. Now, most of the time, probably more like 60 to 70% of the time, I actually end up taking the business over for them and managing it myself, and they just go, you know what, for all this, you just do it and sort it out. The good news is, if it is a real mess, that we charge a management fee, so we actually charge a percentage based upon the rent that's coming in. Now, whether it's a big mess or a little mess, it's the same cost. So often by the time self-managed properties come to me, particularly lately, it's a big mess. So that big mess to clean up is actually free because we're just clicking that percentage on the rent. So mixing personal with business, massive mistake. Big thing that I see. Now with an agent, you don't get that. You don't, with all due respect, you've heard it all before. So you you get to read sort of bullshit and fact much easier because you're doing it with scale, and you're not getting caught up with your tenant and mixing personal with business. Overshooting rent relief is something that I've seen a lot with self-managed lately, and where that's happened is landlords have actually said, not really understood COVID, never been in that situation before, and also they're only doing it with their property, so their information that they're getting is only as good as what their uncle or auntie or friend is telling them. How are you, Subin? Lana, Craig, how are you? Michelle? So the information they're getting is as good as the non-professional industry people is giving that information. So with self-managed property, mixing that overshooting of rent relief has been interesting because people have actually given away a lot more rent than they actually should have, because they've often overshot what the legislation has been guiding us on. They did it too early. They got too compassionate, caught up. They were scared. A big thing with an agent is they're going to fight for you. So it's almost like you're employing a professional boxer in a way, and a bit of a heavyweight rather than a lightweight. So they're not going to crush your tenants and get rid of your tenant, but they're always going to be your strength, your body, your strength for you in property management. Now with commercial and residential, I find that commercial sometimes with self-managed, again, you're talking bigger numbers. It starts compounding, and often the commercial rents may often be lower maintenance because they're larger rents, and the tenant looks after the property a lot more than a residential property. So lately, again, the big thing I've seen people coming undone is rent relief and understanding interpretation of the law. That's costing owners a lot of money. Now guys, if there's a cock up with property management, you've actually got someone to blame if a mistake's made with legislation, interpretation, that sort of stuff. What I often find is that the agent doesn't make the mistake, and one, because that's their business, their core business. Two, if they do make the mistake, they will honour that mistake. Now, how many times I get an owner that manages the property themselves, and they have to honour their own mistake because they made the mistake. So what actually happens is you'll find that you'll take over the management, for instance, and the tenant will be 3 months in arrears, and you're going, hang on a sec, like Seriously, 3 months in arrears, that would never happen under our watch. And the owner sort of shrugs their shoulder and goes, oh, well, you got fix it up. And sometimes the tenant gets away with it because it was just too long gone. And you think to yourself, that would have never happened if we were managing the property, but because an owner's managing it, they tend to cop a lot more because it's their fault. So they'll easily just shrug their shoulders and then let it get, take on the cost or the debt of what happened. Again, guys, just remember, when you're thinking about self-manage, or when you're thinking and managing a property yourself, or when you're thinking about it having professionally managed, just think it's a $500,000 asset. There is no way you would trust that with someone who has not done it before, has not managed it before. And that's the big mistake that people, I think, have learnt a lot lately, especially through COVID. I think a lot of people have turned around and had that aha moment, and they've got, you know what, far out, this is actually going to cost me a lot. Who do I call? They talk to friends or family who often aren't managing properties themselves, haven't done it on scale. You're not saving the money, guys. And it's that simple maths you've got to remember. My business, I might be running a 10 or 20% profit managing your property. I'm going to get my hands on 10%, and it's going to be called profit. That 90%, I'm investing in the highest professional property managers in the industry, and then I've scaled the rental business. So generally all of the money spent on your management fees is going towards hiring absolute pros in the business that know their stuff. That is what you're paying for. Now, when you are managing a property yourself, you better hope that your labor is the highest skilled labor, and you understand that legislation back to front, because if you don't, the odds are you could be bit on the bum. And more often than not, I reckon probably, I got to tell you, the amount of business, particularly lately, we've been taking on board for clients that have just, it's been like a hot potato, the property, and they're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, my tenant's saying this, or should I do that? And I'm stepping people through, and at the end of it, they go, you know what? Just take the property over. You just manage it, you just look after it. I'm happy just to pay a management fee. And with commercial properties, the management fee comes out at more like 4 to 5%. With residential properties, it's 6 to 7%. That's the management fees on the rental figure per month, per year, per week, whatever, however you take it. So that's your investment into having a pro protecting your asset. Really, really important, guys. Hopefully I've helped you today with a couple of those touch points that you're not making those mistakes. And bear in mind, you can always call me, our agency, or your agent if you're in any other part of Sydney, and ask them for free advice. We're one of the last businesses. So even if you are self-managed and you are in a corner, don't make a silly decision. Call your local agent and have a chat with them, and they will happily give you the advice. Call them 2, 3, 4 times. They'll always happily give you the advice, hoping that they get to look after your business. But definitely don't make those decisions in isolation. Don't make these decisions trying to be a Google property manager. A Google property manager, you will make a mistake. Talk to the pros. They will give you free advice. Give your property to the pros, and they will actually give you they won't make the mistakes. They won't walk you into a fire. Hopefully helped you guys today. Love ya. See ya. Super Saturday. Have a great day.